Leading up to its launch, Ubisoft painted Far Cry 5 as an incredibly serious game about some effed up stuff going down with humanity. Eagerly, I waited for its release, hopeful for a new chapter in a franchise that I have been a part of since the very beginning. I've always had issues with Far Cry games, but they were always really fun. They are easily one of my favorite open world games simply because it's not hard to have a good time in them. The playground game, they call it. I knew it was going to be more of the same, but that's not always a bad thing, especially because all the pre-release content leading up to its launch painted the 5th mainline entry as a sort of departure, at least narratively. Prior to 5, Far Cry has always given a sandbox to the player with partial linearity built in as a collection of quests scattered around the map. Most of them were pretty much optional, but the main quest was always going to point you in the right direction. You could tackle the game however you wanted to, most people doing so when they had exhausted the fun they had from the side content. But I always felt like something was missing from a writing standpoint. Even though villains were often really well done, the main protagonist you play was often incredibly dumb and naive, and most of them had no business being in the situations that they fell into. Obviously, Ubisoft favored this setup because it often led to a bizarre jumping off point into the game, such as with Jason from Far Cry 3. It's perfect on paper. A whiny kid witnesses his brother get killed by a psychopath, wherein he escapes within an inch of his life, compelling him to seek revenge on Voss while developing into a powerful character that can pretty much do anything possible. But we all know that Jason ended up being one of the least interesting characters and contrived characters to date, as was the forced introduction to the game. Far Cry 5, on the other hand, starts off strong. The first 20 minutes of the game are unlike any other Far Cry game as promised by Ubisoft. It's quite the chilling opener, equipped with a gripping cutscene of Joseph getting rescued by his cult army. The chopper goes down, forcing you to escape through a moonlit forest before hearing a scrambled message on the radio. So you run to meet the marshal at the trailer house and the game begins. Well, not quite. The cult ends up attacking you at the safe house and you're forced to flee in a truck, flying down the mountain road until you get to a bridge, and of course it goes down, wherein you're rescued and the screen goes black. This is where I believe Far Cry 5 could have been really great. Let me first start off by saying that I like this game. I love the playground they built in Hope County, and I think some of the villains are really well done, especially Jacob. It's fun how each zone is divided up in a way that is unique to the character that it is home to, and you do meet plenty of interesting characters along the way through. It's beautiful, it runs like a dream, the UI is fantastic, and the atmosphere of Montana is something I haven't seen portrayed in a game before. I truly loved it. But Far Cry 5 was hyped up to be an incredibly riveting game and a serious game that would dive into many socio-political issues such as race, religion, drugs, gun control, and xenophobia, to name a few. And this is where I start to have issues with Far Cry 5 as a game. Unfortunately, this game pretty much aims to appease everybody, thus ducking out of the way of the same issues that it touted as being critical to its storytelling experience. This game goes to great lengths to avoid pissing off anyone, is what I'm trying to say. Very rarely does the game approach any of the above issues in any serious manner or any developed manner. In fact, the game is dead set on just being kinda silly. There is little in the way of sustained investigation or portrayal of the social factors present in the discussions Ubisoft spearheaded prior to the launch of the game. White supremacy, sexism, militant extremism, they all go cheaply glossed over. I was really surprised, as I thought those would be the cornerstones of this game. They talk about them, but they don't really address them. Slideshows of early press release conference builds showed Far Cry 5 tackling all of these issues in a way that would, and I'm quoting directly from Ubisoft, shock you and scare you. I wasn't scared or shocked in Far Cry 5 because the game never took its conviction very far. But of course the game doesn't need any of that to be fun, and there's a lot to be had in Hope County. It's a cartoon playground with absolutely no set path, and no two players will experience the game in the same way. But as a narrative experience, it is held back by what happens at the 20-minute mark.
Get out of that uniform. We need to burn it.
You build your own character. I'm damn near positive the first time in a Far Cry game that you can do this, and it has major implications for the game. The silent protagonist is my main issue. Not being able to speak means that there is no interaction between the game's moral issues and you as a character. You simply take in without projecting anything into the world that would otherwise create some sort of dynamics with the narrative of the game. You play as Deputy, sometimes called Rook, short change for Rookie Cop. But you have no feelings, no beliefs, and no dreams since you can't talk. There's nothing wrong being a blank slate as long as the game featuring it needs no two-way conversation, but Far Cry 5 desperately cries out for that. As a result, immersion feels flat when you can't contribute anything beyond simply nodding your head, listening to up to 3 minutes of continuous dialogue with no way to interject, and accepting whatever resolution a game ends on. There's a lot of talking in Far Cry 5, especially during moments between Joseph and his lieutenants. You're pulled at random into monologues of pure propaganda where your character says nothing even though most of what's being said should prompt some sort of question. No opinion, no arguments, no two-way dialogue, no debate. They explain everything to you, what Joseph is, what he's doing, why he's doing it, and make sure you know how good the world will be once he does it. Why are you silent in this game? With such a radical premise, so many questions to ask, so much on the line, why is the narrative a simple collection of listen and accept what I tell you moments? I was hoping for some debate in this game, as the underlying themes running through it are definitely primed for that conversation. I assume it was a condition to make the open world feel more free, which ended up hurting the structured moments of this game. The fact that Rook never talks means that these conversations turn into monologues as if they were speeches at a political convention. Where thought and debate should happen, theatrics takes place, making most of the important dialogue in the game feel like you're just kind of sitting and watching a play, instead of being an active participant in the important matters of the game. This feels wrong because the game hinges on such deep political issues and social issues, and conflict is usually at the heart of such matters. Thus, you would think that the cutscenes would have been designed as a platform for argumentation rather than lecture. I wanted my character to challenge the villains of this game, instead of being a wall that the game could simply throw arguments at without any meaningful conversation or development. But that can't happen with a silent protagonist. Without a force to talk back, Far Cry's story moments don't feel as touching as the promise of them. Therefore, I lost a lot of engagement in the cutscenes in Far Cry 5, even though they were often very well presented. Overall, I still enjoyed the game, but I thought the story experience could have been better for these reasons. But everyone's going to have a different opinion because this game has a lot going for it, so I think no one's right or no one's wrong. This is just my personal opinion, so go ahead and do me a solid and let me know your opinion down below in the comments section, as well as hitting the thumbs up button or the thumbs down button depending if you liked the video or not. Have a great day, guys. We'll see you in our next video.